now reconvenes this meeting of the Plano ISD Board of Trustees in open session at 7:37 p.m. on February 6, 2018 at the Plano ISD Administration Building. Good evening. My name is Missy Bender, and I'm president of the Plano ISD Board of Trustees. On the board's behalf, I wish to extend a warm welcome to all who are present and to our web and video viewers. Tonight, we will conduct our meeting focusing on the district's two major goals. Number one, ensuring the continued improvement in student learning, and two, ensuring the efficient use of resources. Let me start by introducing my fellow trustees and staff. Seated to my left are Sarah Bonzer, our interim superintendent. Normally seated next to her is Nancy Humphrey, board secretary. However, she is representing the school district in Washington, D.C. at an advocacy event at the Capitol. Next to her is trustee Tammy Richards and trustee Jerry Chambers. Seated to my right are board vice president David Stolle, trustee Dr. Yoram Solomon, trustee Angela Powell, and executive assistant to the superintendent board of trustees Denise Gillespie. This evening, trustee Angela Powell will deliver tonight's inspirational message. Ms. Powell.
Yes, we are a world of diversity and vibrancy. It is my hope that we embrace life in all its fullness with civility and respect. In the spirit of public education, let us be good neighbors in our communities and inside our schools. Let us take responsibility to break down barriers and create a place of welcome for all. Thank you.
Thank you. The board welcomes our student greeters for this evening. They will be leading us in the Pledge of Allegiance tonight. These students are winners of the district spelling bee that took place in this room just last week. Students, please join us at the front of the room. And now, when everyone stands, you can begin the Pledge of Allegiance. Let's all stand.
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Students, our Vice President David Stolle is going to award you with some special certificates in just a few moments. And before he gives them out to you, would each of you please take a moment to introduce yourself to us, tell us your name, where you go to school, and what your grade is.
Srikar Yang, 8th grade at Schimmelfinding Middle School.
Magna Panamudi, 6th grade, Rice Middle School.
Harini Venkatesh, Andrews Elementary, 4th grade.
Shreya Sudhakar, 5th grade, College Elementary.
Arkish Brahim, 4th grade, Shell Elementary.
Well, congratulations, students. Please join me in applauding these students. Now, we know that successful students have supportive families and teachers behind them. If there are family members and teachers who were able to be here tonight to support these students, would you please stand so that we can recognize you too? Now, students, we know that you have worked extra hard to prepare yourselves for the district competition, and we wish you luck at the Collin County Spelling Bee, which is February 8th. This year, Plano ISD is hosting the County Spelling Bee. So now I want to ask that you please be sure and get your certificate from Mr. Stolle over here, and we want to thank you for being here tonight. And once you receive your certificate, we're going to take a picture, and then you're free to leave. So, David, do you want to?
You guys come up. Don't sit back there. Come up and take a picture.
Yeah.
So my mom in 5th grade told me if I only knew how to spell, I'd be the smartest kid in the world. So I can only assume that means y'all are the smartest.
over? Okay, trustees, do you want to join over here for just a minute? And we'll take a picture with these adorable kids. Well, congratulations, students, moms, dads, teachers. Great job.
We want to thank the students for all their hard work on the spelling bee. That takes a lot of time and practice and patience. And so we know that kids with strong academic vocabulary are the highest achieving kids we have. So congratulations and good luck next week.
We'll now move to the recognition part of the agenda. Carla Oliver, the Assistant Superintendent for Government, Community, and Planning Initiatives, is made aware of student guests prior to the meeting. Ms. Oliver, do we have any with us this evening?
I'm sorry, I want to be sure I understood you. This is in regard to any special guests that we have?
Yes, Boy Scouts and the like.
Thank you. Yes, we do have Troop 444. They are not in this meeting room. They are actually out in the foyer and asked to watch the meeting from there.
Okay.
So we were teasing about who had the better seat.
Okay.
But they're here, and so you might want to give a,
All right, well,
a shout out to
welcome
them.
Troop 444.
444.
Okay. Thank you for being here. The board is very proud to recognize the many students who are achieving at the state, national, and international levels. Before you on the screens presented, we're going to talk about a few of the student achievements to recognize. In science, Michael Ma from Plano West was named a top 40 finalist in the Regeneron Science Talent Search. We wish him luck in the final competition in March. And in fine arts, 2 speech and debate students from Plano West won the state UIL 6A Congressional Debate Tournament, including the championship and 6th place. At the Montgomery Bell Academy Extemporaneous Speaking Round Robin, Plano West students earned 1st and 7th places. And in music, 78 Plano ISD students were named as All-State musicians. In December, the Plano Senior High String Orchestra performed at the 71st Midwest International Band and Orchestra Clinic in Chicago. In January, the Plano West Jazz Band performed at the 9th Annual Jazz Education Network Conference in Dallas. Let's congratulate these students. We're also pleased that we have a special staff recognition this evening as well. It is the board's pleasure to recognize Plano West Social Studies teacher John Scott as having received the 2018 International Educator of the Year from the World Affairs Council of Dallas, Fort Worth. Plano West Principal Kathy King is here tonight to introduce Mr. Scott, and Board Vice President David Stolley will present a certificate. Ms. King.
It is an honor to introduce John Scott to all of you for all the right reasons. His mom and daddy certainly did a fabulous job raising him up to be such a fine young man that he is. Daily at Plano West, he carries forward the legacy of his father. If that's not enough, they worked really, really hard to support John and have him graduate from Baylor University. Upon his graduation at Baylor, what John has done every day since is to carry that legacy forward in supporting and loving and putting his students in a position to be successful. John is a man of character, wisdom, and dance moves. Don't be kidded by his stoic professor look. He can bring the house down at Plano West in our pep rallies. Possibly one of many reasons as to why he was named Plano West Faculty Homecoming King. He is one of the original Plano West gray wolves, as we call him. John is a very humble man. He's always quick to shy away from recognition, and he's always quick to put his students, his colleagues, and his teammates in the center of attention. We are thrilled that he has been named the International Educator of the Year. As I've told John, he is the kind of teacher and leader every principal longs to have and every peer tries to emulate. Oddly enough, that is not what I admire most about him. What sets John apart is relationships with his students, his belief in them, his ability to build them up, and his innate drive to help them exceed beyond their personal expectation, and his unique ability to touch their lives forever. Please join me in sharing gratitude with John Scott for his outstanding service, the leader of the pack, John Scott, International Educator of the Year. Thank you.
John, it's with tremendous honor that I get to deliver this to you. And on behalf of the board, I'd like to thank you. And I don't know that I can follow the words of Kathy there, but it's teachers like you in this district that make our district what it is, in an extremely special place for students to learn and become citizens of the world. So congratulations. Thank you.
Mr. Scott, would you like to say a few words?
Well, I'm very honored. Thank you so much, Kathy. I'm very honored, and it's very gracious. And in so many ways, I see this award not as a singular award for me, but as a representation of the collaboration, the connectivity, the synergy that my colleagues have given me as an educator. That as educators, we don't teach on an island. None of us do. That we work together, we team, and truly, the strategies, the curriculum, the ideas, that those collaborative things that have gone forward into my life as an educator have made me better. And in so many ways, I see this as a representation of my department, my school district, who've empowered us to go forward and take care of the kids and teach them and help them succeed. So thank you very much. I'm very honored.
Mr. Scott, I just want to take the opportunity. I didn't know if you would speak or dance. So we'll take the kind words that you've said. But I just want to thank you for loving teaching. There's no better profession in the world, and I honor that in you. But more than your love of teaching, thank you for loving kids.
Thank you very much.
And for all that you do for Plano ISD. And this award is clearly well deserved. So thank you so much.
It's very gracious. Thank you. Thank you.
Debbie, did you get the pictures that you needed? Okay, one more exercise moment. You're in the spotlight.
Anybody else wants to take?
Yeah, congratulations. We will now move to the regular public comment portion of our agenda. For the public comment portion of our agenda, the board has public comment cards that are accepted from 6 to 7 p.m. Can you hear me okay? I'm having a struggle with this microphone. Cards are not accepted after 7 p.m. and are not transferable to other parties or speakers. All cards were collected and given to Carla Oliver or a representative of the Communications Department who will present the speakers during this time. Ms. Oliver, do we have any speakers for public comment?
We do. We have 3 for agenda item.
Okay. So we will entertain those comments at this time. I will read some directions. Please follow it's a couple of pages, so be patient with me as I read through them. Pursuant to board policies BED legal, BED local, and BED exhibit, the board may place reasonable restraints on the number, length, and frequency of presentations, so long as it does not unfairly discriminate among speakers based upon their viewpoint. The board is not authorized to discuss or act on the public's comments or complaints if the subject is not on the agenda. If a member of the public or the board inquires about a subject for which notice has not been given, the board may only make a statement of specific factual information, recite existing policy in response to the inquiry, or refer the person to a staff person for more information or assistance. If the subject of the public comment is already on the agenda for the meeting, the board may invite the speaker to stay until the board reaches that topic on the agenda. 30 minutes have been allotted to hear persons who desire to make comments to the board. Persons who wish to participate in this portion of the meeting shall complete the appropriate public comment form before the meeting begins and indicate the topic about which they wish to speak. No presentation shall exceed 3 minutes. If you are not finished speaking at the end of your 3 minutes, I will interrupt you so that we can move to the next person. Delegations of more than 5 persons shall appoint one to present their views before the board. Finally, pursuant to Texas Government Code Sections 551.074 and 551.0821, the board will not permit the presentation of personally identifiable information regarding a student and will not discuss the appointment, employment, evaluation, reassignment, duties, discipline, or dismissal of a public officer or employee, or to hear a complaint or charge against an officer or employee pursuant to Texas Government Code Section 551.074. Should a speaker wish to address one of these issues, they must do so through the appropriate local grievance policies, F&G Local, DGBA Local, or GF Local. At this time, Ms. Oliver, would you invite the first speaker to the podium, and I'll provide a few additional organizing instructions. David, would you provide timing? So he will you will have 3 minutes to speak. When you have 1 minute remaining, he will gesture that you have 1 minute remaining just to alert you. At the conclusion of 3 minutes, we ask that you please conclude your remarks and refrain from going over your time period, please. So, the first speaker.
Thank you, President Bender. Our first speaker is Donna Hubert.
Okay. So when you please step to the podium, please state your name and address.
My name is Donna Hubert, and my address is 400 Shiloh Drive. I'm in that little sliver of Lucas that's in PISD. And I'm also at that age where I can either see you or this paper in front of me.
You and me both.
Madam President, Trustees, Interim Superintendent, I'm here today as both a board member of the Gay and Lesbian Alliance of North Texas, as well as the mother of a future Plano East Panther. The episode of bullying last week at Plano East has been disheartening to me as both a mother and as a member of the LGBT community. As disappointed as the actions of those boys made me, I was so proud of the reaction of the student body. They said in a loud and united voice that this is not our Plano East. I was also very proud of how the school administration handled it. They acknowledged the anger and passion of the students and turned it into a positive, or so I thought. Hundreds of students planned to walk out in support of their bullied schoolmate and against bullying and discrimination. They were told instead they could plan a rally. Unfortunately, I found out that the administration took that away in a classic bait and switch. We should be proud of our students when they stand up to support a classmate who has been threatened. We want them to grow into adults who treat everybody with dignity. The administration at PESH lost a lot of my respect when they backed out of that promise, but even more, they lost the respect of many students that they're supposed to lead and inspire. I also had a great deal of confidence that the district would properly discipline the students involved. By no means was I expecting expulsion or any action that would sully their records, but I expected a statement to be made that threats of violence will not be tolerated in this district. I understand you can't talk about specifics, but I do know that the offending boys were back in school this week. That means, at most, they received a couple of days of suspension. How many days for the rest of the year do you think that the young man threatened will be looking over his shoulder? For that matter, how many days for the rest of the year do you think that every other insert your expletive here in the Fine Arts Department will be looking over their shoulders as well? Who really is paying the price for the actions of these students who think that hate crimes is a joke? Today, 1 in 20 Americans identify as belonging to the LGBT community. However, 1 in every 5 hate crimes is committed against a member of that community, my community. Every other category of hate crime, race, religion, gender, disability, country of origin, these are all currently protected in the PISD non-discrimination policy. It's time that the LGBT community is added. Saying it's not okay to discriminate against a kid because they are different is not the same as advocating their sexual orientation or activities. It's not teaching about the LGBT community in class. It's not taking some big political position. It's saying loud and clear that it is not okay to either do or say that you want to beat the gay out of another student. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Our next speaker is Carolyn Mobius.
Please state your name and address.
Carolyn Mobius, 1412 Parkview. So hello, everybody. Murphy, Texas, not Plano. I just wanted to come and share some thoughts. You know how I am. Even though I'm not on the board anymore, I'll still review policies to see if maybe something needs to be changed in regard to an event that has occurred in the district. So recently with the event at Plano East, I thought, I wonder if there's something that needs to be adjusted. So I did look at some policies and suggested, I have followed the proper channels and I have suggested some changes, but I am really glad to see what you are voting on today in regard to FFI local. I would like to suggest that going forward, because there are some other policies that will need to be corrected or changed, that you should consider the protocol that for the person who has been bullied, that there is a go-to advocate for him or her that they know will help them through this process if they're scared and think something potentially may happen to them. I also would like to encourage the district to consider starting early, like in elementary school, the proper use of text messaging, Snapchat, internet use, where they don't get into this situation where potentially they can ruin their future because they say something totally inappropriate that maybe they did mean, maybe they didn't, but we know how bad that is once it gets out there. You can't get away from it. So I do want to say that I was very proud of the kids and how they handled themselves through the process. I think they showed a maturity that was beyond their years. They let you know, they expressed their thoughts and did it in a timely manner, and they returned right back to school. I'm very proud of them, and I do know y'all have a lot of hard work ahead of you, and I want to thank you very much for everything you do for our district.
Thank you.
Our next speaker is Jaden Sims.
Welcome. Please state your name and address.
Okay, my name is Jaden Sims, 3728 Bella Vista Drive. That is my address. That's in Plano. Okay, so I'm currently a student at Plano East Senior High. I'm here to ask the school board to recognize the shortcomings in the current student code of conduct regarding sexual orientation and gender identity. The code of conduct currently protects students against harassment based on race, color, gender, national origin, disability, and religion. This list noticeably neglects the rights of students of differing sexual orientations and gender identities. A code of conduct that does not work in the interests of every student is inherently flawed. We ask that the faculty and administrators at our campuses be empowered to protect all students. We believe that this proposed change will help fulfill PISD's vision statement of empowering students to collaborate with and contribute to the global community in a positive way. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That concludes our speakers.
Okay, thank you. We will now address the consent agenda, which includes personnel recommendations, minutes of previous meetings, bids, purchases, and construction items. Are there any requests to remove an item or items from the consent agenda for further discussion? Hearing none, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve as presented.
So moved.
And do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. All right. The next topic on our agenda is items for discussion and action. The first item relates to a recommendation to send notice of a proposed termination to a term contract employee. Assistant Superintendent for Employee Services, Dr. Beth Brockman, will introduce the recommendation to send a notice of proposed termination. Dr. Brockman.
Administration recommends the approval to send the proposed termination notification to the employee that is under a term contract currently.
All right, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Second item is to rescind a notice of proposed termination. Dr. Brockman will introduce the consideration and possible action regarding a recommendation of the superintendent. Dr. Brockman.
Administration recommends board approval to rescind the notice of proposed termination of a term contract employee identified at the last meeting.
Thank you. Do I have a motion to rescind as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. All right, the next on our agenda is the Matthews Elementary third grade waiver. Dr. Brockman.
Administration requests approval of a class size waiver for third grade for Matthews Elementary School, where we have 91 students on third grade rosters with 4 teachers.
Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Item D, the Wyatt Elementary second grade waiver discussion is also on the agenda. Dr. Brockman.
Administration requests approval of a class size waiver for Wyatt Elementary with second grade with 89 students on the rosters of 4 teachers.
Do I have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
Yes, I have some comments I'd like to make about this. I support the waiver, but I'm very hopeful we won't have to spend $20,000 to support basically one child. Wyatt has, I think it's the 5th lowest percentage of economically disadvantaged children in the district. Their star passing rates were 93% and above. We've got some hard choices facing us as a board soon as we look at budgeting. We need to make sure that we save whatever dollars we have to help our low-performing schools, where the distribution of MAP scores is probably much broader than you have at Wyatt, so classroom discussion has to be much more distributed and broad. And so I think we have some real thinking that we need to do. I understand from talking with Dr. Brotman that we did not include in our District of Innovation the opportunity to waive class size. In retrospect, I'm very sad that we didn't, because that would offer us some flexibility that we may need. But just as a board, I want us to be very conscious of how we're spending these dollars and making sure we spend them on the children that truly, truly need them.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. Are we ready to vote? All in favor, please raise your hand. All right, motion passes unanimously. Thank you. Okay, so we have covered all of the human resources items. We are now going to discuss the superintendent hiring process. I will now open the discussion regarding the superintendent hiring process and timeline. So to that end, I'd like to share with you the process and the timeline that the board will entertain to conduct the superintendent search process. This evening in closed session, the board had the opportunity to define that process, and it is as follows. On February 7th, starting tomorrow, we will post the position of superintendent internally for 10 calendar days. Dr. Beth Brockman, the Assistant Superintendent for Employee Services, will be the point of contact for all applicants. On February 20th, previous to the work session of that evening, the board will, in its executive session, the time is yet to be determined, review the applicants that have applied, and we will finalize the interview process and select applicants to interview. On February 21st, in a closed session with the time to be determined, the board will interview and conduct the deliberation of candidates with discussion of next steps and actions. On March the 6th, in the regular board meeting, if an internal candidate has been selected by the board, the lone finalist will be named. If an internal candidate is not named as a lone finalist, the external search process will be defined and will commence. Therefore, in summary, at this point in time, the board is going to first conduct an internal search. And at the conclusion of that process, either we will identify a lone finalist. If not, we will identify the external search process to be conducted thereafter. At this point in time, board members, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve this schedule of timeline and events as presented. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. All right, motion passes unanimously, and the position will be posted internally tomorrow for 10 business days. I believe the posting will conclude at noon on February 20th. All right, thank you, board members. We'll now move to a discussion about our strategic planning consultant. With RFP number 2017-075, the district has launched the strategic planning process. Carla Oliver will open the discussion of the recommendation for a strategic planning consultant. Ms. Oliver.
Thank you, President Bender. I'm excited to bring to you this evening a vendor. The name of the company is Strategic Planning for Practitioners. Business partners Jenny Preston and Sherry Sipes are the facilitators that would assist us with this. As you know, we've been talking about strategic plan for quite some time. We're ready to launch into that soon, and would begin with our Board of Trustees and with our cabinet in helping set the parameters for our plan and how you consider both mission and vision for the planning process and for what you see for our district in the future. The plan would go through the typical steps, including a strategic plan committee, also focus groups, and ultimately would wrap with action plans.
Okay, thank you. Do I have a motion to approve that RFP 2017-075 be awarded to Strategic Planning for Practitioners, subject to a negotiated and executed contract?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion? I just want to add a comment that I really appreciate the efforts that Carla, you and your department, and Sarah, you have executed to make sure that this selection is reflective of the board's values and process priorities. I just appreciate that very much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we have a motion and a second. We've had discussion. All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously.
Geez, this meeting is going to be over.
Okay, we are now concluding with policies. Closure is required. At most of our regular meetings, we have policies on the agenda for the board's consideration. These policies have undergone prior review by the district's attorney and by each board member. I invite Carla Oliver to introduce the policies we have on the agenda this evening. Ms. Oliver?
Thank you, President Bender. First on our agenda this evening for policy consideration, TASB Localized Policy Manual Update 109, affecting local policies, is presented for approval under our first reading and will be presented for adoption under second reading at a subsequent meeting.
Okay. Do I have a motion? The particular language is presented. If you'd like to make the motion, please utilize this language. I know it's a lot of reading. Come on.
All right, I'll take it for the team. I move that the board add, revise, or delete local policies as recommended by TASB Policy Service and according to the instruction sheet for TASB Localized Policy Manual Update 109 with revisions as noted to the following policies. CDA Local, Other Revenues Investments, CO Local, Food Services Management, DH Local, Employee Standards of Conduct, DHE Local, Employee Standards of Conduct, Searches and Alcohol Drug Testing, EHBAF Local, Special Education, Video Audio Monitoring, FFAA Local, Wellness and Health Services, Physical Examinations, FFI Local, Student Welfare, Freedom from Bullying, GKH Local, Community Relations, Conduct of School Premises. The following exhibits were revised with the update. Exhibits are reviewed but are not adopted by the board. EHBAF Exhibit, Special Education, Video Audio Monitoring. The district will remain the following legal policy recommended for deletion with update 109. FNCH Legal, Student Conduct Assaults.
Thank you. Do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I would like to just ask, the reason I didn't want to make this motion is I didn't want to lose my place here. Policy FFI Local, I looked it up after I heard the speakers today, and it does say about prohibited conduct that I'll skip most of it, including dating, violence, or harassment or discrimination on the basis of race, color, religion, sex, gender, national origin, or disability. I'm not sure why we have sex and gender, but we are missing sexual orientation. I would like us to consider adding sexual orientation.
At this time? Is that what you're wondering?
I think that's first reading.
It's first reading, so certainly before, depending on the direction of the board, it could be added and brought back with the second reading.
Okay.
I'm supporting
or whatever
that.
changes.
I also would like to include that language.
Okay.
Support that.
Okay, so then what I would suggest as a matter of action is that we consider this, but then, so consider the motion and the second that are on the table, take a vote on that, and then give you direction to talk with council about bringing that recommended modification forward at the next meeting for second reading. Is that okay? Agreeable?
Sounds good.
All right. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you, and thank you, Trustee Richards. Appreciate your willingness.
But wait, there's more.
Carolyn used to do these for us.
Okay. Next policy is CW Local, Naming Facilities, first reading. Carla?
Thank you. This policy has been developed as a new policy in our manual to outline district guidelines and practices in regard to naming of facilities. Again, this is a first draft being reviewed by our board, and it would come back to you again after your edits or suggestions.
Okay. Do I have a motion to approve on first reading?
Approve. I move to approve first reading of CW Local. This policy will be presented for adoption under second reading.
Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Any discussion?
I'm just pleased to see the flexibility that it does afford for trustees, because I think as we move into a new era, we have other people we may want to acknowledge besides only our homegrown educators, and so I'm glad that it leaves that discretion to the trustees.
Okay. Thank you. All right, any other? All right, all in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously.
See, Tammy, it's not that hard to read the whole thing.
Look at the next big one.
Alrighty. Next policy is FFAC Local Wellness and Health Services Medical Treatment, first reading. Ms. Oliver.
Thank you. FFAC was updated to reflect our current guidelines and practices, so it's one of those where we're just keeping up and making sure the policy language is congruous.
Okay, do I have a motion to approve on first reading?
Move to approve first reading of FAC Local.
Do I have a second?
I second.
Okay, any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. All right, item D is EI Exhibit G, Academic Achievement, first reading review only. Ms. Oliver.
Thank you. This is a new exhibit and letter to parents regarding attendance and grading for middle school students earning high school credit in Health 1.
All right, do I have a motion to review on first reading?
So moved.
So,
Do I have a second?
second.
All right, any discussion? All in favor, please raise your hand. Motion passes unanimously. Okay. Ms. Oliver, do we have any public comment cards that are non-agenda?
No, ma'am, we do not.
Okay. So that concludes this meeting with no further business. This meeting of the Board of Trustees is adjourned at 8:20 p.m. Every now and then, we get an early meeting.
Did not see that coming.
Mari said drive safely.